Welcome to Biztech's C-Suite Conversation Show. Our guest today is Juha Arola, the Chief Operating Officer of AEM. AEM is listed on the main board of the Singapore Exchange and is a leader in test innovation. Now, the company provides comprehensive semiconductor and electronics test solutions based on best-in-class technologies, processes, and customer support. Now, here to tell us more, welcome to the show, Juha.
Thank you so much, Brian. Thanks for having me.
Now, Juha, for a start, could you give us a brief introduction to AEM and its history?
Yeah, okay. So AEM is a quite old company. In the recent years, we have grown quite a lot. As you already mentioned, we are Singapore listed, and we actually believe in zero failure world, and we aim to provide the most comprehensive semiconductor and electronics test solutions based on the best-in-class technologies, processes, and customer support. Just want to mention, we have plants in different regions. We have the Singapore operations, we have the Malaysia Penang operations, we have also a smaller operation in China, Suzhou, in the Asian region. So the expansion we are doing now is the big expansion in Penang. If you look at the operation, where we are more than doubling the current manufacturing space. And if you look at R&D and the manufacturing, so R&D expansion is big here in Singapore. We are in total adding around 300 jobs to the group in this total expansion.
You've got, as you mentioned, plants across the region here. In your expansion in Singapore, you talked about expanding your R&D. Where else in the region are you having R&D personnel?
Okay, so we have also in the US, and we have a lab in the US which we move into, where we're expanding. But of course, the expansion is not as big as the Singapore and Malaysia expansion. It's to support our customers where they are close by. So there is also an important expansion as well. So it's to bring our customers closer to us.
Malaysia is very competitive in the semiconductor space. You set up in Penang, which is a Silicon Valley literally on its own. Why are you expanding your Singapore facilities more than Penang, where obviously there's a cost arbitrage opportunity of expanding in Penang itself?
Yes, there is a cost benefit of moving operations from Singapore to Malaysia, yes. But in the same time, we are not really reducing much of the space we have, because we have such a big expansion in the R&D, in the field of R&D here. So we need the space. So we allocate actually operation space now to engineers. So that's what we're doing. So Malaysia, if you talk about Malaysia, but Malaysia is really positioned in the heart of Southeast Asia, as you said. It's region home for many of the top semiconductor and electronics and electronic companies with large technology and talent pool there. I mean, we also know that around 7% of the global semiconductor trade goes through Malaysia, and especially through Penang. And we also see that if you look globally, this whole E&E sector is projected to increase by 15% this year. It's very strong growth this year. And the global semiconductor sales is continuing to further grow even further of the years ahead, you know. So maybe not in this kind of double digit, but still growing very nicely.
So you had, in the last 2 years, all we keep hearing about from across different industries is the shortage of chips. We don't have enough chips. We can't produce. There's supply chain issues. Walk us through the industry challenges in the last 2 years and how that's being solved recently.
Okay, so the last 2 years plus during this COVID pandemic has been very difficult for everybody, including the chip makers and the manufacturers, who OEMs and electronic manufacturer who buys the chips. Now we see a little bit due to the raise, the high inflation, we see that this is start to easing up a little bit and expect to ease up more in the next quarter. So there is some ease up, but in the same time there is a capacity build up from the semiconductor companies, and we are part of that capacity build up. So we as back end equipment supplier, we have contributed to build this capacity to the industry.
I want to talk about the KPMG report that states that industry confidence of this sector in 2022 is actually very high, with 95% of semiconductor leaders forecasting their company's revenue to grow. 68% said it will grow 11% or more. What's AEM's thinking on and strategy around these challenges?
That's a good question. I think we see slight softening in the market the next year or so, very slight maybe, or softening in not in terms that it maybe goes down, but it stays where we are this year. I think many people are also looking into diversification of customer base as well in order to keep their companies growing. So that's also part of many company strategies to diversify their portfolios.
Juha, if you look at the semiconductor industry over a longer period, 30 years, you will find that it's an industry that's characterized by boom and bust cycles. Are we heading for a significant slowdown in a year or two from now?
Maybe a little bit early to say if it's going to be that slow. I think a lot of this will depend on the inflation, the worldwide inflation rates in the largest economies. That will be a big driver, because that will slow down demand for first of all the lower end electronics and also the higher end electronics with high volumes. And if that goes down a little bit, that has affected the semiconductor demand globally. So I guess the worldwide economy, but we know that if we look to until, let's say, by 2030, we know for sure the industry will be growing. So there could be a slowdown 1-2 years, and then it just continues up, because the need of semiconductors will just continue to grow as the number of applications and the demand of chips, everything gets connected more and more. It just will continue. So the demand will continue long term.
And where is this demand coming from primarily? Is EVs one of the key demand drivers?
EV, yes, definitely. But the entire automotive market use a lot more chips on every car. Even a non-EV car uses many times more today. But of course, EV car is then a few times more than that. So that's right. 5G, of course, with the number of equipment that needs, it's much more dense populated. That is also driving it a lot. And of course, the consumer electronics with more and more advanced technologies people are using every day, that of course drives the demand even further. So long term, the demand definitely is going to go up, and there's plenty of evidence of that and studies done on that.
Now, Juha, looking ahead on some key trends, what do you see in the next 1 to 2 years that could potentially impact you either positively or negatively? Because you have planned, obviously, as a company, as AEM, quite a significant expansion in capacity as well as R&D.
Yeah, so for us, I think we know our plans, what we need to do in the next 1-2 years, and the expansion we have in place clearly is needed. So depending on what happens after 1-2 years, we might have to even expand more. But if you look further than 2 years, it's a little bit difficult to say exactly where it's going to go. It very much depends on the worldwide economy as well. But I think our expansion is exactly the right move, to make sure that we are very independent and resilient, going forward.
You are the other thing that you've done obviously is you're investing in R&D to obviously maintain your competitive advantage. The limitation often with this is talent. How are you growing your own talent, partnering with governments and so forth in order to expand the talent pool?
Yeah, that's a good question. We have actually reached out to the Malaysian government because they have given us a good support. So I met them in Penang when I was there, and they immediately came in and offered their support. We actually pre-employ our people as early as we can because it takes some time to train them and so forth before they are 100% productive. So far, I have to say we are well ahead of the plans. I mean, I was very positive surprised because we all know that Penang and Malaysian labor market is very tough, but our recruitment has gone way well beyond my expectations. So we have almost hired where we are supposed to be at the end of the year already. So we put all the cylinders in place a few months ago, and the hiring has gone way above the expectation, which is a big surprise to me and very positive that is like that, you know. So going forward, I'm now more confident with the hiring that we have done that we can continue with our plans and for next year and do the hiring as we need.
I'm very interested to find out, Juha, in terms of your hiring strategy, because you just said you pre-hire early in advance in order to get them on stream. Share with us some of the interesting insights into that, because obviously that allows better quality of output at the end.
Yes, correct. I mean, we understand our industry or the products we produce are very advanced. They are at the top, and of course, our customers, needs the best expertise they can have from us. So that's why when we have new employees coming in, we want to make sure that they are productive at the highest level, but we know also it takes time. So that's why we put this in place so that we are well ahead. We have plenty of time, and of course, we at the same time we have been in contact with education institutes to also bring fresh graduates early to us as well, so that they can come in early enough to us. That has been one thing, and also to reach out to basically to the public as well, so that our name goes out, and by that way we see now that the employees come to us instead that we have to search for them, and we see evidence of that, very strong evidence of that is happening, which is very nice. So the word of AEM and our expansion in Penang and the R&D expansion in Singapore has reached a lot of people. The word has spread a lot.
Well, that's really good to hear. So obviously your HR and employee branding people have a lot to do with that. Congratulations. Juha, it's been a really fascinating conversation, but before we leave, any final thoughts you'd like to leave us with?
I'd like to leave with the thought that, that the semiconductor industry is, even though there might be a small dip during the 1-2 years, in the long term, it is one of the most exciting sectors you can work in, and long term, it's one of the best industries you can work in, especially if you're a young engineer or an experienced engineer to join something which is so amazing, where technology is thriving. So I think for those who look for careers in this kind of very interesting technology intense sector, they should really look into joining companies like AEM.
Now, Juha, thank you very much for taking your time to be on the show.
Thank you so much, Brian.
Now, I'm Brian Fernandez, and we've been speaking to Juha Arola, the Chief Operating Officer of AEM. on Biztech's C-Suite Conversation Show. This video and podcast will be on our various platforms as well as our website, www.biztech.asia. Please like and subscribe to our various platforms. Thanks again for tuning in.